Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this video and my next video are for Congress. I want to let Congress know how the SEC is treating the investing public. I want them to see the conflicts of interest. I want them to see how awful what's being done is. And so what I did is, as many of you know, over the course of the last, since the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit dropped, we have done countless hours of work finding video, and audio of all that's going on. And so today, what I've done is I've gone back through my Twitter feed and I have found the most watched videos that I have ever shown having to do with this case. And we are going to lay it all out for Congress right now. And then we're going to tweet and retweet this to Congress so that they can see it all out in front of them. Okay? I'm going to try to tell them what it is along the way, explain to them what's going on if they wouldn't know. And but first I'm going to tell you, link to one of my sponsors has just added more Ripple equity, not to be confused with XRP, the digital asset. They've added more Ripple equity to the platform. And so you need to go and check that out. It's only for accredited investors, but I'm sure there's many of you listening to my voice that would fall into that category. So go to linqto.com, or the links are in the description of this video. Okay, so here we go. And we're going to start off with Jay Clayton, who is the ex-SEC chairman. He is the guy that sued Ripple on his last day as SEC chairman, which I thought was that in itself is shameful and should be in the eyes of Congress. Listen to this guy.
Altcoins. We have discussed Bitcoin, but there are other altcoins out there. There is Ether, for example. There is Ripple. Is Ether a security?
So, Bob, I'm not going to comment on specific crypto assets and whether they are a security or are not a security, but you captured the definition.
The reason he's not going to comment is because that way he can sue people. If he keeps it up in the air, and he doesn't get specific, and people don't know what the rules are, then he can come after them later the way he did Ripple. That's the way he did it. That's the reason he did it that way. It's the reason Gary Gensler is now doing it this way and won't answer Congress people's questions on whether Ethereum's a security or not.
Very well. Now, am I giving you my money for you to go off in a venture, or I'm relying on your efforts and the efforts of your colleagues?
Right. So it's not.
Just so you know, this is Vitalik Buterin, one of the founders of Ethereum, right after what Jay Clayton said.
Launch that we have. So we are going to start the Ether pre-sale in a couple of weeks. So the Ether pre-sale will be an opportunity for anyone to purchase Ether, where Ether is the internal currency inside of the Ethereum system, sort of like the XRP and Ripple.
Now, is there a big window of opportunity for people to get in, or is there just like a one-day opportunity?
No, it's something we're thinking of. It might be 45 days, it might be 30, it might be 60 days.
Okay, so there's plenty of time.
Sort of an incremental thing, so the earlier you go in.
The earlier you get in, the better price you get.
Let me turn to what's a security. A token, a digital asset, where I give you my money and you go off and make a venture. You have some company you want to start or something you want, and in return for me giving you my money, you say, you know what, I'm going to give you a return. Or you can get a return in the secondary market by selling your token to somebody. That is a security, and we regulate that. We regulate the offering of that security, and we regulate the trading of that security. And that's our job, and we've been doing it for a long time.
All right, so there's Jay Clayton. And then we have this. This is my whistleblower alert to Gary Gensler. Ethereum was a security. It is a security. 2.0 is about to be a security if they can ever issue it. Watch, retweet to Congress and media. This smells like my 15-year-old dirty socks, only much worse. This is Joseph Lubin, one of the co-founders of Ethereum.
That It was sold very explicitly to software developers, to people who intended to use the system. It was not sold for speculative purposes. We're very confident that it started decentralized and people bought it for those reasons, and that it has grown radically decentralized and never was a security and certainly isn't now.
Here, this Congress, if you're listening, this right here, what this is Joseph Lubin explaining to potential whales how they can disguise their purchases in the Ethereum pre-sale.
We will issue a bunch of Ether in the pre-sale to people who buy it for use in their businesses, or to people who buy it for speculative reasons.
Mike's asking, will there be a limit on the amount that a person could invest in Ethereum?
A person can buy from any number of different identities. We may limit the size, the unit size of a sale, just to make it easier to disguise. Let's say if you're a whale and you want some privacy, you can buy 50,000 units, and so nobody scares people with an enormous initial purchase. So if you are a whale, if you want to plan on investing several million US dollars worth, then you can do that for multiple identities. We will ask for a real-world identity in the form of email address, just so that we can make sure that everything works smoothly the whole way through the process. But we won't be requiring it. So we can create a pseudonymous email and identity and actually purchase it.
Congress, that is who your SEC is protecting. Ethereum was given a free pass. Ethereum was given the status as a non-security, when not only did they issue it as a security, but they did what he just described and tried to disguise purchases and help whales disguise purchases. And then there's this, Congress. You might like this clip too.
I'm going to token launch it the Tuesday after the event.
And by the way, this is the same guy, Joseph Lubin, the co-founder of Ethereum.
Some of us realized that we didn't have a secure cold storage hot wallet system, and we didn't really have a website where we're just going to publish an address. And all these people were dropping by the house. It was like 20 or 30 people there at a time, and about 10 people were actually staying there. And they were Bitcoin nouveau riche, and they were going to drop lots of money on the Ethereum project, lots of Bitcoin on the Ethereum project, and everybody knew that Bitcoin was going to go straight to $10,000 a few weeks or months later. And so which islands were we going to buy, and what were we going to do with these hundreds of millions of dollars that people were going to drop on us? So we took a little time to explore those issues, and also the main issue, which we realized was, would we be selling unregistered securities to Americans? And so we took a little pause. It was a 7-month pause. I drove lots of the legal work. We got a piece of paper in our pocket before we actually launched the token sale. And
Congress, if you're listening, they got a piece of paper in their pocket, whatever that means, before they launched the Ethereum token sale.
Somewhere between that January 2014 and the launch of the token sale about 8 months later, we established here. So we established here because we were very concerned about what Americans were thinking about this technology. There have so the cryptocurrency space is actually a few decades old. The decentralized cryptocurrency space it only dates back to Bitcoin, but there were other attempts. and they didn't end well for some of those people, and there were much more intentionally illegal things that didn't end well for other people, but we were worried that we might get lumped in with that. So we're not enthused about establishing in the United States.
So, yeah, it's important to note they established in Switzerland, in Vitalik Buterin's words, to try to get around the U.S. So, then this is Joseph Lubin being interviewed, and this was the plan. This is what your SEC's up to. They wanted to get Bitcoin and Ethereum classified as non-securities and then slam the door on the rest of crypto, thus hurting U.S. innovation. And then later try to go after companies like Ripple that were trying to work with the SEC from the very beginning. This is. Listen, just listen to this.
Also being the basis of a lot of enterprise solutions like the JPM coin, like Quorum, like Hyperledger Besu. Where does it leave the rest of the blockchain protocol?
And this is important, Congress, if you're listening. What's important is this guy was obviously being told things by people at the SEC while they're literally giving the Heisman to the rest of the companies in crypto to keep them at bay. There's something really bad here, folks.
This is an industry in which interoperability at the end of the day is something that, and co-opetition. Is that something that will serve this industry well? How do you perceive that?
Any new technology is going to have to grapple with regulatory issues where Ethereum and Bitcoin have already cleared that bar and been declared commodities. So it's going to be spectacularly difficult for a new, even high quality technology and team to build a tokenized blockchain protocol and get real engagement for it. They're essentially going to have to distribute their token broadly and equitably in order to have legitimacy and excitement from their community. And they're really going to have to promise their community that this token is going to grow in value by the agency of some core team. And by definition, that's a security. And so they're in this quandary where they have to sell a security almost by definition, and therefore, almost by definition, they're not going to be able to distribute it broadly and equitably because they're going to have to be distributing to accredited investors. And so we've seen some pretty good teams and protocols build what are now called VC coins that are not gaining the traction that, say 2 years ago, the VCs.
Okay. And then, so it was basically constructed, the SEC helped these guys box out everybody else by doing this. That's what's going on, Congress. They wanted Bitcoin and Ethereum to get through the door, and then any tokens that can be issued going forward can only be built on Ethereum. If that's not killing innovation in this country, I don't know what is. What this really is it's people that are trying to create a monopoly.
Ask yourself, where do monopolies come from? In the United States, the most important and the strongest monopolies are unquestionably those that derive from governmental privilege.
They consider the Ethereum network token and issuance mechanisms to be decentralized, and therefore no transactions involving those particular assets are considered to be transactions of securities. They have not said the same thing about other tokens, the Ripple token, for instance, and they were clear that they were going to come out with statements to sort of assess these different tokens, and I believe they've made all the statements about decentralization that they're going to make.
How does he know that, Congress?
Private monopolies there are that have been able to maintain themselves over any long period of time without government assistance. And the second was the New York Stock Exchange. Not more recently, because since 1934 it's had the help of the SEC.
Which islands were we going to buy, and what were we going to do with these hundreds of millions of dollars that people were going to drop on us? So I drove lots of the legal work. We got a piece of paper in our pocket before we actually launched the token sale.
But almost every other case, you have temporary monopolies develop. And if the government doesn't come in to shore them up, they fall to pieces.
The SEC has been very clear that, I guess Jay Clayton, Commissioner Clayton indicated that they wouldn't grandfather anybody, that big surprise, they're going to enforce securities law. We happened at a moment in time when securities regulators around the world were not watching, and we became sufficiently decentralized.
I don't think Ether is decentralized. I think it's fully functional, but I don't think it's decentralized. But the chairman, the division director said it's decentralized. So, hey, look at the metrics for Ether. And, hey, you did a little better than that. Hey, then why is it Ripple? Yeah.
And you can go down the line and find that one hypothetical monopoly case after another derives from governmental assistance.
Bingo, that's what's going on. Okay, keep watching. This is Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple.
I think it's incredibly important that the whole industry recognize that we have to work with the regulators. We have to work with the system. I've been fond of saying the blockchain revolution is happening from within the system. It's not going to happen from outside the system. There's some in the Bitcoin community that have really advocated kind of, not just down with banks, but down with governments. And we have been a contrarian, relatively speaking, in that regard. And so I think when we think about an XRP flow and solving that institutional money flow, where we've announced pilots with Western Union and MoneyGram, all of those transactions are happening through a registered financial institution to a registered financial institution where there's a KYC, something called a KYC check, know your customer. Every financial transaction is through a regulated endpoint. And so when regulators hear that and they understand, they're like, oh, so you're not circumventing regulations. You're not trying to enable anonymous transactions. And I think that's incredibly important for the world to understand that, like, to the extent there's regulatory concerns about digital assets, not all assets are created the same. And we should understand what the differences are.
Right.
Now, this is Vitalik Buterin, who is the co-founder of Ethereum.
You said that you guys are looking to incorporate and do this out of Switzerland, and you're purposely, you live in Canada, right?
Yes.
And so you're purposely not doing it in Canada, and you're purposely not doing it.
And by the way, Congress, if you're listening, both of the founders of Ethereum, Joseph Lubin and Vitalik Buterin, are both from Canada, and Vitalik Buterin was born in Russia. I think that's a pretty important thing to know.
Yes.
A large part of that is regulatory reasons.
Okay.
So with Switzerland, they have a very long and established tradition of, first of all, very friendly banking laws. Also, a tradition of stability. So it's not like some tiny tax haven that's going to turn against us the moment that the U.S. government wants them to.
In other words, they need a jurisdiction who's not going to back down when the United States wants to enforce laws or anything against Ethereum. That's who your SEC has given a free pass to, Congress.
And the second thing is that they also have a tradition of direct democracy, very accessible government. So we have contact with open transactions, and through them, we've actually been talking directly with some government officials.
So is any of your team has to be physically in Switzerland,
right.
or are you going to have to be in Switzerland?
Yeah, well, a large part of our team is currently in Switzerland. We are establishing a substantial base of operations there.
Okay. Right, but you'll still be based out of Canada.
Yeah, so part of us will be in Switzerland, part of us in Canada. We're already a globally distributed effort.
Sure.
Okay. Then there's this. This is from Congress. If you're listening, this is from May 10th of 2018. This is Charles Gasparino on Fox Business. He did not at the time even realize what he was involved in, but in this clip, you find out that these guys from the part of Ethereum and Consensus, which is one of the organizations that Joseph Lubin started, these guys they let the cat out of the bag by accident, and they let Charles Gasparino know that they're behind the scenes back in May of 2018 working with the SEC and the CFTC in secret to work this thing out for Ethereum. Watch this. If I can get the refresh button, here we go.
somewhat dispersed. What we can tell you now, because I've been spending a lot of time talking to major players in the cryptocurrency, in the blockchain industry, is like they are starting to come together with a consensus, trying to build together an organizational roots where they can deal with the growing regulation, which is coming from the SEC mainly, where they consider anything that's traded inside a blockchain to be a currency under their oversight. So what we do know, and like I said, been doing a lot of reporting about this, blockchain and cryptocurrency industry is looking to establish a self-regulatory organization along the lines of like NASDAQ and the NYSE.
To give it legitimacy.
Give it legitimacy and to give it set of parameters and best practices, and also to deal with the regulators, the top regulators, the SEC. Obviously, this comes amid increased scrutiny by the SEC, and the SEC launched a massive crackdown on everything blockchain, crypto-oriented. There's going to be a lot of cases coming out of here. But here's what we understand, which is interesting. This self-regulatory agency could be put through, and I think this is the biggest effort yet, where they have major white shoe law firms they've hired, something known as the Brooklyn Project.
Now, the Brooklyn Project was created by Consensus, which is Joseph Lubin's company. He's also a founder in Ethereum.
They're going to publish best practices and seek government regulation at some point as an SRO, as something along the lines of the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. And it's created by two, I would say, industry leaders, a guy named Joe Lubin, Andrew Keys. They're part of something known as Ethereum and Consensus. These are big cryptocurrency blockchain companies. Mm-hmm. They are working on this through this thing known as the Brooklyn Project. They have a lot of sources and friends on Wall Street. This, to me, will be the way that cryptocurrency and blockchain, the technology, gets beyond the sewage rationale. They are going to lead the effort to essentially systematize and rationalize and create a consumer protection organization with blockchain and cryptocurrency, and this is the key thing, because they are working, from what I understand, with the SEC, the CFTC on this, a self-regulatory organization, which will differentiate between stuff that can be regulated as securities, like Bitcoin, and other stuff that you have through blockchain, like computer technology.
Now, Congress, the important thing to get out of that is it would be all fine and good. And I think that Charles, at the time that he was reporting this, he had no reason to think that this was not going to be for any kind of bad. But what has happened is, and what he didn't realize, and what none of us realized at the time, was that what they were really doing is that these people were all working together to get a free pass for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then to block out all other cryptocurrencies, name those two commodities, and then block all the others out and pretend like you're open to hearing from them. Come visit us and all. But when you did, like Brad Garlinghouse said, all you were getting was they were putting you in their file for different people, different companies they could go after, is what they were really doing. And they're inviting people in so that they can get more information on how to go after them and call them securities. This is not the kind of competition in innovation that this country needs. This is part one of what will be probably 3 parts to these videos. I've put all the best. These are the most watched videos that we've found. This is the best evidence we've found of what has gone on, and we're putting it all out there to you. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button. And Congress, all I am is a father with 2 kids and a wife who wants a major good, the kind of future that I had growing up. I want my kids to have the kind of future that the United States should want their children to have. And when we've got all these people pulling shenanigans and cozying up to government regulators, and then they're all beholden to people on Wall Street, and they're pulling strings behind the scenes and having secret meetings, you can't have a free market the way that we want it to, where there's real competition. You can't have it. These guys are playing games with people's lives, and it's not right.